Hi, good people. This is Josh here with another episode of Sit Down Hawaii. We're glad that you're here. Listen, I'm excited to bring today's episode because I think you're going to love it. We've already been talking and it's been great. But first, a few things. Listen, we're not a political podcast. We are a podcast that talk about pressing issues with people who can make decisions. So with that, I want to introduce our guest today. I'm going to start with Miss Sharon Moriwaki. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Oh, it's awesome. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. And also on my right, today we have Shotaro Dabbs. Welcome, Shotaro. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So today we're talking about District 12. So it's Senate District 12. And I'm gonna read this because I want to get it right. So this is Ala Moana, Kakaako, Macaulay, Sheridan, and Waikiki. Did I do that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Awesome. So listen, we've sent emails out to every district that there's a challenger, an incumbent, and many people got back. Some of them said, yes, I would love to do it. And others said, no, I don't want to do that. Or who are you and what's going on? And I've got to say, right off the bat, both of these people decided to do this. And it's been a really pleasant encounter. So if you're living in this district, I want to let you know, you probably got some really good choices here. So with that, I want to go through the rules and then we're going to jump right in. So we have 3 rules here. The first rule is respect, that we're going to treat one another with respect. Even if you don't get along or you don't see things the same way, we're going to try to be nice to each other. Second is we're going to make it about the people. We're going to make it about you, District 12. We can talk about a ton of things, but what we're going to do is try to put this in a space where it's practical so you get the answers that you want. And then third, this is my favorite. Let's have a little bit of fun.
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, we're going to jump right in. So we call this section our talk story session. This is where I bring up facts about District 12, and you both kind of give me your thoughts around them. So we'll start off with affordable housing. Okay, a statistic for District 12. Housing prices in District 12 have been increasing, with a median home price in Ala Moana at $1.2 million. How do you plan to address affordable housing to ensure long-time residents aren't priced out? And we'll start with you, Sharon.
Well, we've been working on this for years. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I ran for office 7 years ago when they started building up in Kakaako. All of the condos around were already entitlements, so to speak, with Kamehameha schools and with Howard Hughes. So there were like 20 some odd buildings that are still in the process of being built. So they were required to have 20% what they call reserved housing. Now, I was an advocate at that point in time. And I fought that because 20% is not enough, because this Kakaako, for example, was built in an effort to be a work, live, play area, and people who worked at the Capitol, work downtown, should have affordable housing. So it was supposed to be mixed income and mixed density and mixed kinds of people living here. Well, it didn't go to that. So we are behind the 8 ball because there was nothing we could do because they all got already approved. What we can do is go back to the HCDA, the Hawaii Community Development Authority, which oversees the zoning for Kakaako, to say, can you do these kinds of conditions? Can you make more green space? Can you put more affordable housing in other parts of the district? So, for example, I'm working on trying to get supportive senior housing because there's not enough senior housing, and working on another kauhale, which is for homeless, trying to keep them out of being homeless. But we have to do all kinds of other ways in which we can make this district a much more mixed income district. So that's kind of what we're doing. A lot of the money that we put in from the legislature these past 2 years is to put in money for infrastructure, because that's where the costs are. So
it seems like there's a growing thought here among let's just call it my generation, that it's almost impossible to buy. It's almost impossible to buy, especially in your district. I just want to do a quick note here. If you want to learn more details about what they have to offer, Kokua Council did a really good job. There's also a few things on the civil beat. There were some interviews and some questions. I want you, and I would implore you to go out there and listen to those things so you can hear more details. Today, we're just going to be having a conversation around this. But Shotaro, what's your thoughts about that and where we're at and why it's happening?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Senator explained it incredibly well, right? It was Kakaako was supposed to be like another Waikiki, commercial, residential, mixed district. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way. But like she said, we can change zoning around and try to put more affordable housing in the area. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people that I know especially had to move out of Waikiki, Kakaako, this south side of the district, and to go, out, right? West side, anywhere
OPU
really.
with me.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, other outer islands, different states and things like that. And that's kind of one of the biggest pushes I'm going for, right? Is to kind of bring them back and to stop locals from leaving, right? Because the best way to keep locals is to have them here.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue. And another one is to try to get our houseless population off the streets. At one point I was too. So us, or the legislature as a whole trying to establish more affordable housing is a really big thing for everyone. And yeah, that's about it.
But what do we say to a person who just, hey, I've been living here for a long time, my family's been here, and it's just getting too hard to do with the amount of money I make, and I'm just trying to simplify this, with how expensive things are getting, and you've kind of talked about, hey, we were promised that there should have been a percentage in these buildings, and it didn't happen. So what do we say to these people? Like, what hope is there for them, And I feel for them, right? If they want to stay here and they want to live here, let's maybe have a conversation around that. What does that look like?
For sure.
Yeah. And,
You want me?
and you want
Yeah, I'm not too
You
sure.
can-
You
is it
looked at your
popular?
left at
You can
first,
jump
so
in. I'm
I
looking
was
left,
like,
right?
yeah.
If you have any thoughts, yeah.
I mean, I think it's really tragic that we're losing so many people, and we're losing a lot of young people. Part of what we've done in the legislature is to try to develop housing. So as I said earlier, putting money into infrastructure so it doesn't cost so much to build, because the cost is in the land, the cost is in not having the sewers, not having the roads. So if we can put money, we being the legislature, can put money into doing that, then basically your developer is doing construction. It can be lowering the cost. And we're also looking at, if you're a first-time buyer, it's really difficult. I know that we have a couple of pilot projects that we're looking at where you can say for first-time buyers, their mortgage, we have some loans for mortgages, or just rent until you have enough to buy a place.
Right.
So there are all kinds of ways that we're trying, but it is difficult for young people coming out of, trying to find a job and also making enough to have housing. But that is the number one problem in the state.
Yeah. Anything on your end?
Yeah, for
Or-
sure. I think right now the legislature is doing a fine job with trying to get more affordable housing and everything. When I started working there, I was a little pessimistic working at that place because I didn't know anything about it. We hear so much stigma behind legislators and everything bad with them. When I started working there, I changed my mind. I was a little more optimistic, and I do believe that a lot of people are trying to do good, but a lot of internal politics, like headbutting and things like that, different belief systems kind of get in the way of that. Regardless, I always believe that we should start young. So one of my pushes in terms of education is to implement more financial literacy courses into the DOE's curriculum, and start them young. When I was 16 and I dropped out, I didn't have any type of money management skills, right? I had to learn that on the fly, and I really wish I learned that in my younger years, right? And yeah, it's not like a short-term fix, right, that a lot of people need, but at least we can build upon that, and then that younger generation can kind of transfer those skills into the real world. Because right now it's hard for a lot of kids to get real world skills, right? And yeah.
I think this is just a good thought. I think you went to Kalani.
Yes.
Okay, you went to Kalani. Where?
Kaimuki.
Come see.
Oh,
There's always beef there. I think it's definitely not like was it
It's not like
Kaiser?
USC and UCLA though.
Yeah.
One of those big
Hey, we're all
diamonds.
in town,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it's I've got to tell you, doing research on both of you, I can hear the compassion, I can see it, the respect. Clearly, you know this. Clearly, you're both from here, and I applaud you for wanting to give back. And I think more people need to be doing that for their communities. Also, I looked at your degrees, and I'm like, I don't even know what this degree is. What is this thing?
Me
You know?
too, me
Well, can you
too.
just briefly explain? I know, what was your degree? Just go through it. I can't even say it right.
Which one?
Which one is this?
All of them.
I don't know. I want to say it's like geriatric, but I know it's not
gerontology.
gerontology. Can you explain it, please? Because I was like, what is that?
Gerontology is just the study of old people. How do you live successfully?
Really?
What do you, how you deal with that? We did research on healthy aging, and we did research. And the other side of it is geriatrics, which is the actual
okay.
practice of dealing with old people. But gerontology is a science.
So I wasn't so far off. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I was like, oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Awesome. Which leads to Kupuna, right?
Right,
We're going to
right.
go down that
Yeah,
road.
yeah.
Listen, if you're Kupuna and you're listening to this, I'm glad you're listening. Share this with all of your, your kids and your grandkids. And shout out to all that you're doing. Shout out to Kupuna Care, our Uncle Brickwood, and all of them. But yeah, awesome. I think that there's clearly a need here. My wife and I, when we first got married, we moved to 801 South, and it was awesome. Right? We could catch the bike. What was it? The Biki? Was it Biki? Go down to Kakaako Salt, go to Moku, have a good time, and then get back. And then once we had kids, it was a different story. Like, okay, well, I'm not sure if this is where we want to have our family. And that was more personal choices. But yeah, it's expensive. And then you start having more mouths to feed. You have more things, and you kind of weigh these things out. And I've got to tell you that like two of our neighbors were both Kakaako. They both moved out there as well because it just felt like maybe we're all in the same boat. And so I definitely think what you're both talking about is a need. And if you're out there and you're thinking the same thing, clearly they both have ideas on how we can kind of move forward with that. I want to move over to the next topic. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, great. So we're going to move into crime and public safety. And I want to preface this by saying crime and public safety is a whole state thing. You know, you don't just see it in your district, right? But here's very specific facts to your district. So property, crime, and homelessness-related incidences have increased in tourist-heavy areas like Waikiki. What are your plans to improve public safety and address the rising crime rates in these areas? And I'll start with you.
Sure, perfect. Yeah, the crime rate's insane compared to when I was a kid, for sure. You know, back then I could go outside, walk around, ride a bike, and not, I wasn't worried. My parents weren't worried at all. You know, I was one of those kids that rare kids to go outside and play, right?
Right.
And yeah, nowadays I can't even leave the house after 8 or 9. I don't feel safe doing that. I can't imagine other people as well. Addressing that's a pretty hard issue. We are down about 360 cops. So working with the city and
And it's
county,
statewide.
statewide,
Yeah.
So working with the city and county to kind of figure out how to increase that number is a big thing. I spoke with a few police officers, and there's a variety of issues that are wrong with police retention, benefits, and things related to that. And it doesn't seem that appealing to the younger generation to join the police force. So we're really in need of police, and that's one of the big first steps that we do need to do. And in terms of preventative measures, it's younger generation are kind of going into that area of crime and things like that, especially in less fortunate neighborhoods, when it comes to money, when it's tight, things like that. So developing more programs to help our youth is a big step as well.
Yeah, Sharon, what's your thoughts around that rising crime?
I ever since I started in office, crime has been a real problem, especially in Waikiki, as you say. It's in the really dense areas like with tourists. So I've been working closely with the police in district. Well, we cover, because of the Senate district, we cover 3 districts. So with the Waikiki district, with the Kakaako downtown district, and what has been the biggest problem, because we get calls and emails every day about homeless, about crime, about noise, and we try to work with that, and we try to respond to that. Now the city, HPD is a city issue,
Right.
but the laws, for example, on crime and penalties are all state. So our legislature just passed last year a bill that I've been working on with one of the community residents. It's the habitual criminal criminal offense bill, because we have habitual offenders, like you say, thefts, constant, and then they go through the revolving door. So there was a bill that's now in law passed, that if you have 3 or more times in 5 years, then you will be a felon. It would be a felony instead of just a habitual slap on the hand.
Right.
But for people, when you injure people, there's nothing like that. So we have some people with 40 arrests, and they're assaulted people. They're going after people, and there was nothing that was done. So just last session, we passed a bill that says if you have 3 assaults of a person causing bodily injury or bodily injury to a police officer within 5 years, then it's a felony. You go to jail, or you pay $5,000. And that is the first time that we've been able to handle these habitual criminals. But they feel like, hey, I can get off.
Right.
You know, I can do this. It's just a petty misdemeanor. I can get off. And you keep on going out the door, revolving.
Right.
So that's one thing that we've done. And that came from one of the residents actually working with me on the bill.
Oh, wow.
And the problem is that, people say, oh, no, you can't put them in jail. We don't have enough room in jail. Well, it's better to put them in jail.
Right.
Then you can deal with them than them being on the street and accosting more and more people. And so it's part of it is working hand in glove with us, working with the police, so that they're not out there. As Shotaro said, there's like 400 vacancies. And so if we work with and be the eyes and ears of the police, and the police working with us, we can get some of these people. And sometimes it's mentally ill, and they're on drugs, so it's co-occurring. So we pull them off the street. If they get into jail, they get assessed, and they get proper treatment, because now our it's no longer just the Department of Public Safety, it's the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So we're hoping that they can get the kind of treatment they need in prison, because if they're on the street, they have nothing else to do, and they have no place else to go, and they have no money, and drugs help them cope.
Of course. So. Yeah, I've been, I live in this media world, right? Social media and all that. And I've got to tell you, there's been a lot of this crimes against tourists I've been seeing. And I'm sure we can agree, like, that's just not good. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for just who we are as Hawaii and aloha spirit. And I wonder, what does that look like for them? What does that look like? And I'm glad that we're doing something, right? Now it's 3 strikes, you're out type of deal. But what does it look like with people who are coming here? I used to think, man, people save their whole lifetime to come to Waikiki, right? We're going to be here for 8 days, and we're going to, do the whole thing in the luau. And then they come here, and then sometimes they get the exact opposite, right? And so I know that's not what we're striving for, but I don't know this. This is just a genuine question. It seems like it is everywhere. I just saw something the other day of a guy who was walking by, and they got into it, and my heart kind of went out to both of them. There was a local person who just seemed like, for some reason, they just didn't get along. And then it was this, I could tell this guy I think he was here on his honeymoon, and they kind of got into it. And so I don't really know if there's a solution for that. I just think and feel that we've got to do better, right? We've got to do better. So anyway, that's awesome. Anything else? Anything on your thoughts on crime? Any pushback? I do have a question. how do you approach, let's just go through the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Because Waikiki, I believe there's vastly different crime, or let's just say there's maybe additional different types of crimes there than there would be in Kakaako.
Mhm.
And then if we kind of go through Ala Moana, there's even like little sections there. That's a little different. Are you seeing a difference there? Are people complaining about different things? I also know, like you talked about noise. I can imagine like there's, I'm in Kakaako, so I can tell. But what are you seeing there, and how do we address all the different problems in each neighborhood? And anyone can go. Yeah.
Yeah, I get all kinds of calls. I mean, it really depends on the neighborhood. So some is excessive noise, and that's a really big problem
I
in
know.
Waikiki. I mean, it's from the trash collectors to the motorcycles to people like they even complain about the poor strikers, in the
Oh yeah.
malls.
Oh
And
yeah.
so noise. But if you live in Waikiki, I mean,
Isn't that
it's
part of
noisy.
it, right?
It's
You kind of
noisy,
got it
right?
knowing it's.
But it is a problem, and sometimes because they're complaining because sometimes the trash gets collected. Not sometimes the trash gets collected because it's private at 4 in the
Oh.
morning, and they're trying to sleep. They got to get up to work. So noise is a problem, and that's been much more so in Waikiki than say Kakaako. And then you've got the homeless more in Macaulay and not Kakaako, but we have cleaned up the homeless encampments quite a bit. And again, that's working hand in glove with police, with the city facilities management, and everybody has to work together to help the homeless. And so the other day, for example, I'll give a plug for my commander for Kakaako, Major Okamoto. Called him. The encampment is there. It's right in front of the senior center in Kakaako. And they said, these people are there, and the seniors can't get through to the senior center. So the commander came down and told them, with the new law, because of the Supreme Court decision, he said, you folks have to move. And we called the homeless outreach coordinator, and they sent down their clinical psychologists, came to talk to the homeless people and said, if you don't move and they can help you move, the next time I come back, it's going to be jail.
Mm.
The next day, that whole place was clean.
Wow.
And the Department of Facilities Management came, cleaned up everything. And I go around every day to see, are they coming back? Because they come back, right?
Right.
They're not back. So I think it's everybody's business. Everybody got to call, work together, because these people need help. And we've got to look at, some of them need to be in jail. Some of them need help. Some of them just need housing. But we got to all work together.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because I just did a podcast the other day, and if you're watching this, you probably watched a few of these. But we were talking to a candidate out on the west side, and we were talking about how much that costs, taxpayer dollars. And then also when let's just say the houseless, I don't want to say homeless, but the houseless leave, they're going somewhere else. And I don't know if this is happening here in Kakaako. I remember when I was walking from 801 to UFC, it just felt like people were moving from block to block to block to block. And then you would see them leave. They would tape it off, and then they would clean it. I would see the cleaners, right? And then, so it does just seem like this is a revolving thing. And Shotaro, I know that you've got some of this history and whatnot, but from your perspective, what's going on and how can we help? I know you both have a very compassionate heart towards this, but
For sure. Yeah. From at least personal experience, my dad was homeless for about 5 years. So I got to see, or he used to tell me little stories about what the homeless would do and, where they would move and things like that. So, I mean, to piggyback off of Senator, when they do leave an area, they tend to not come back, but I wouldn't say that they entirely, like, they never come back, because I do see the same group of people maybe every, back then pre-COVID, it'd be every month or so they'd be back, but they do eventually come back regardless, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And the issue is that the facilities that we do have to house the homeless people, homeless shelters and things like that, they're scary. You know, my dad never wanted to go in one because he felt safer on the street with his community, right? And it's hard to break up a community with you know, pushing them out doesn't really help, right? Because then we just kind of pawn off that issue into different districts, right? And we can't really say we cleaned it up if they still, you know, are on the street. Um, big thing is um, with that. Sorry, I had a brain fart there.
It's okay.
But
Yeah.
yes, I'll end it at that point because I don't remember
Yeah,
the next one.
I think it's interesting because this is a state issue.
Yeah.
Every district has some sort of homelessness. You know, I know we're seeing a rise in more drug usage in that community,
For sure.
which then, of course, leads to more crime, and they all seem to be hand in hand. It's interesting because when I came back home from college, I felt like it was just more prominent, and it could just be I could be wrong, right? But just the feeling. I also see a lot of conversations online, and if you're listening to this, drop a comment, tell us what you're seeing, and I know that you're not the one person to save it all. Like I know that's not what we're talking about here, but I do think that it is something that's pressing, and it's something that needs to be addressed in a more, I think, direct, you know, like in a more direct way. And I think you kind of spoke a little bit about there are criminals that need to be locked up. There are people that have mental health issues that need that help, and then there are just generally people who are like tough on luck.
Yeah.
You know, what was it? Families in Hawaii are only 2 paychecks away from being on the street.
For sure.
I could be wrong. You could check me on that, but
Generally.
I think that's pretty true, right?
I just want to tell your viewers
Please.
that we do have agencies that are working really hard on trying to solve this problem. I 3 years ago I started this group. It was just an end homeless group,
Wow.
and it was from the police, public defender, prosecutor, outreach workers, all the way to the courts and the at that time the Department of Public Safety, and to an agency, to a person. They were committed. And when we looked at that, and I said, look, let's just look at this person. Clarence was Ala Small Boat Harbor. He was there, and he kept on going in and out of Hono, the temporary one, and say, how do we get Clarence into a better place, into a home? And everybody, to a person, to an agency, was working on that, but they were in silos. So today, 3 years later, we have a statewide homeless and housing solutions office that deals with all the counties. And just today, we had a meeting. And all of from the AG, Attorney General, all the way to the courts, to prosecutor, all in the room saying, these are the kinds of programs that I have. And I must say that the city, Anton Krucky's group, they have put in the last year, something like, and I might be wrong on the figure, but something like 843 beds that are really meant to help the homeless through, or houseless, through wherever they need to get them to a better place. And the Institute for Human Services, we funded them last year for 8 detox beds. And they have circulated 300 people through that 8 beds in 1 year.
Wow.
And they're 80% successful in getting them off of the drugs, and also finding home, those people, housing, supportive housing, so they can move into it, so they don't go back to the street. So it's incremental, but we're putting money in places that it really has shown success, so that we can build on those instead of just spraying the money out. And really focusing in, because it really is a major problem. Because a homeless problem is only, if you look at it, it's people who are houseless because services, or they couldn't get jobs on the front end. So they go down and they spill into finally not having any home and not having a job. Right. So part of it is really looking at how we all hold hands and work together to help everyone to get a job, to get the training they need, to get something where they have purpose, and move them into places where maybe sometimes it's just some housing, but other times it really is assessing them and seeing that they do have mental problems, because the only way you cope with being out there, if you're there long enough, is either you're on drugs or you can cope by going into
Yeah.
yourself, right? So it is being done, but it's being done incrementally because it costs so much. For example, the Department of Human Services today, we asked for $10 million. They're just foundational. We need more money, but we need this every single year, not coming
Yeah.
back to the legislature each year asking for $10 million.
Yeah.
So working through that, we're looking at, okay, how do we do that? We got to put that $10 million in every year and more to help solve this problem. But it's solvable, I believe.
Yeah,
Solvable.
I guess that was gonna be my question. Go ahead, Shotaro.
Sorry.
Is this solvable? Like, what
I
is this?
believe
What's
it's
the?
solvable.
I
I'm
believe so as well.
optimistic.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic as well. Yeah, a lot of people do say it's unrealistic, but I don't think so. We can definitely solve this eventually. Maybe it won't be in a year or two, but it will be solved. It's a long-term game, and I've noticed back in the day, the state used to just throw money around, right? But the last, what to say, last few years or maybe even about a decade or so, the state has been incrementally, like senator said, putting it in different areas, and we need to build a foundation, right? You can't just throw a bunch of money one way and hope that it works out, right? You can't just build walls of a house without the foundation, and I think the state's doing a decent job with it. There could always be more improvements, but that's what, we do as humans. We learn from our mistakes, and, we work on that. And I believe, a lot of us are working to solve that issue.
My wife she worked here at Queens for a while. She's not there anymore. Love Queens, right? But I think that there's this idea, and this is amongst maybe just people working there, that there's a lot of homeless that go in and out. I mean, to the point where, she could never tell me anything because of HIPAA, and she's very serious around that. But I got the sense that, by name, that people go in and out so frequently, that policemen know, that they can drop them off at the hospital and they'll be there for a bed and a meal and a shower, and then they're back out and they're back in a month. And so there definitely seems to be a problem around that. I do think that I'm optimistic as well. I pray that we could figure that out at some point, but I don't think we're close at the moment. At least just from what I'm seeing, especially on the west side for sure.
I agree.
But maybe here in Waikiki, there's a better solution. Okay, let's move on. I think. Well, we're going right into. I have homelessness and mental health next, so you get to just jump the gun.
Awesome.
I do want to focus on mental health though, because mental health has been a very big issue for the younger generation. And it could be COVID, it could be the social media effect, right, where everyone is looking at themselves in comparison to everyone else, and of course you see the best on social media. You're not going to post something that is subpar, right?
Yeah.
You're going to look the best with the best light, with you riding an elephant out in India or something, right?
Yeah.
And you're always kind of comparing, and so I just want to talk about what we can do better for our young adults, our high schoolers, and I want to keep this really open, whether it's within education or if it's any of the communal programs that we have, any nonprofits. But let's go into that, because we're seeing a decline in our youth, and I believe that's our future, and we really need to address this. So maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, COVID definitely exacerbated the problem with mental health. I mean, it's skyrocketing ever since then. In COVID times, kids couldn't do anything but be on their phones, or when they're doing schooling, they're not getting the best of education just because parents have to go and work and they can't keep an eye on their kid, right? You can't. A teacher won't be able to grab the kid and make them stay, right, and help them learn. And I go back to my old elementary school every now and then, Waikiki Elementary, just to talk with some teachers. They're friends now, but some of my friends, and they'll tell me some stories about the kids and how right now they're a little behind in sense of math scores, reading scores, and everything like that. And it's because a lot of them didn't get um, the, they weren't taught the best because of that screen. It's hard to, that retention, right? You have TikTok, Instagram,
Right.
YouTube, and all that where every video is 30 seconds and you're scrolling. And it's just
Right.
this little dopamine hit every single time you're watching a video. A lot of the kids will post, they'll get likes and that little hit of, you
Yeah.
know, joy they get, right? And they keep doing it over and over and over. Thankfully, I didn't have my first smartphone until I left high school, right? We couldn't afford that. So I got to that point and I was like, I'm glad I don't care about the likes at all. All my friends are talking about it and things like that. And that's a really hard, like a culture thing at this point. It's hard to get a kid to give me your phone, right? They have a tantrum or whatever,
Mhm.
and they get upset about that. So that's a really hard issue to solve, right? That's kind of like a home issue. You hope that the parents will discipline their kid correctly and, take that phone away, take that iPad away. You go to restaurants, you're sitting with your family, and you see another kid with the iPad playing a video, right? Me, I'd get slapped at the head if I did that, pulled out my phone or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was raised a little, more traditional, right? So you're at the table, focus on your family, talk with your family, things like that. So that's a really hard issue to solve for sure.
Sharon, what's your thoughts around this?
I just want to say that what Sho is saying is right. I think as parents, even if you're a single parent, you've got to really work with and love your kid, your child. And I think it starts from home, and the mental health kinds of problems may come from their being at home by themselves or going with the wrong crowd. It always happens, but it's the inner trying to develop the inner strength of kids. So I just got a call from a teacher at McKinley High School. They're doing the Center for Leadership and getting the high school kids more interested in giving to the community. So these high schoolers want to do a project to help the homeless. And to me, if you start thinking about other people and getting your children more involved in helping other people, you get outside of yourself than saying I putting all these pictures of being everywhere and being, I don't know what they're doing, playing games or talking to their friends of where they are, but it becomes so self-serving versus other serving that I think that's where we start is at home. And no matter how small your family is, it's really feeling that I want to give back. I need to be part of this community. And it starts from home, I think.
Yeah.
Could
Go
I
ahead.
add on to that? I just want to, let everyone know. I'm pretty sure we're not blaming parents for sure. That's the last thing we want to do, right? And it completely makes sense. Single parent, they can't watch their kid all the time. They have work or other obligations. So I just wanted to state that.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think stating that it starts at home is a big thing, right? And we talk about the support for the home. It's not easy, right? I've got 2 kids, and I hate to say it, that iPad sometimes is a savior. Oh my gosh. You're like, please just Bluey, give us 5 minutes, and that's not an excuse. It's just how it's been.
But think of it before. You didn't
Oh
have
my
that.
gosh, there's no
Truly,
way.
you didn't have that.
No,
exactly.
I think I had a
It's really
Tamagotchi
different.
at one point that my dad ripped
wow,
away.
luxury,
right?
luxury.
Yep.
Right there. Wow.
Yeah. No, definitely times have changed.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because in the media world, we know that the average attention span of anyone watching social media is about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's this constant let's keep on scrolling. But on average, the average American right now spends about an hour and a half on their phone. So think about that. 3 seconds, right? For an hour and a half. This is telling you that it's doing something. It's capturing something, right? And it changes the instant gratification. And I could be dating myself, but when you wanted to play, you would call me and I'd have to go to the phone with the wall. And if I missed the call, I missed the call.
Yeah.
And if I said I was going to be there at 9 a.m. at the park, and they got there 15 minutes late, and I missed them.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't as instant,
Mhm.
and we're seeing that with these kids, and we're seeing that being integrated into education, and we see them, even consuming news, consuming what they believe to be true or not, and so it's a necessary, some would say a necessary evil, but it is something that I think these kids need to go through. I think our position and what we're doing, we just got to come and support in any way that we can.
Yeah.
I want to jump into a quick game, and we're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's do
okay.
it.
So we do this game here where we pick a restaurant in your neighborhood. Okay, so let me set the stage. It's Saturday morning at 11:45, and you just got done walking around Waikiki, and you are hungry. And you're like, hey, I'm going to Side Street Inn. And I'm going to eat. Money's not an issue here. You can just order whatever you want. What are we ordering? I got the menu here. Oh, you're ready?
Yeah.
Oh, go right ahead.
That's the pork chops.
Okay. She goes pork chops. Pork chop. Any sides? Any drinks?
No, I always have Diet Coke, but I shouldn't.
Diet Coke. That's the deep fried pork chops, right? That's what they're known for.
Oh, yeah, it's really good.
What about any other side? Any?
Well, you usually have like a salad or something.
Oh, you went healthy.
Not potato salad, just regular salad.
To
Greens.
balance out the
Yeah,
Coke.
yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
The Diet
Coke
Coke.
and the grease
And
and
the
the pork
pork
chops.
chop.
Yep.
What about
Mostly the
you?
pork chop.
Honestly, I haven't been to Side Street Inn.
You haven't been to Side Street Inn?
A long time ago, maybe.
Oh man,
But I honestly have not. You know.
that's the most honest answer I think I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah. No, honestly, yeah. I've never been to that. I mean, I go to the other local places, Zippy's, Rainbows, all of that. But, I'll just bring up Zippy's. I'll get a
Go for
Chilean rice bowl.
Okay,
and then a
good.
musubi,
Good.
and then I'll get a Sprite. Not a
There you
nothing
go.
diet. I know it's
There
a
you
little
go.
bad, but
But
Add
that's
some
because you're thin.
calories.
You can do
yeah.
that.
yeah, for now I'm kind of gaining a little bit after this,
It's the
election
stress.
cycle.
It's the stress of the election.
Election cycle,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, you're listening to Sit Down Hawaii. We're glad that you're here. Before you go, listen, share this with somebody in the community. Clearly, we're having a good conversation. It's all here for you. And I want to remind you, you do have a voice. Your vote matters, and I want you to take this seriously. Take a second, share this, leave a comment, but more than that, really consider voting because it's your right to do so. All right, we'll be back. Thank you. Hey, hope you're having a good time on the podcast. Wanted to take a quick break to bring today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Sweet Life Tea. It's a tea that helps people get through anxiety. Listen, I have anxiety. Flying, I have anxiety, kind of in a lot of areas. And it was something that was affecting me. And so I found this tea. It has organic, natural, vegan, non-GMO ingredients that when you put them all together, it just helped me relax. So there's things like chamomile, licorice root, lavender, and I felt like I wanted to bring you something that helped me. So if you're struggling with anxiety and you just need something to kind of relax that's organic, go ahead and go to sweetlifetea.com. Put in the code SitDownHawaii for 10% off. Okay, looking forward to the rest of the podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Sit Down Hawaii. We're glad that you're here. Part 2, we just got back from our break. We're here talking to Sharon. We're also talking to Shotaro. And I keep on wanting to say your name wrong because we're talking about the Dodgers. Yeah, we had to bring it up. We talked a little bit about the Dodgers. I'm a massive Yankees fan, if you know me. But Sharon clearly loves the Yankees.
Oh, yeah. No, not the Yankees.
Just
The
got her. I got you good.
Dodgers.
I'm sorry. She's really good at Dodgers. And she loves Ohtani.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, Shohei. I'm sorry.
Gotta say Shohei.
Shohei.
Yeah, Shohei like this.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it goes, home run.
That's you're
love
great
it.
at that. Yeah, you're great at that.
Gotta go to a game.
Yeah.
Let's check out the game.
Wow. You know what? That might be. We need a baseball team back in Hawaii, right?
The island used to be.
Yeah, Islanders
way
and
back
the
then.
Cane Fires and the Sharks and what was it? That was Double A ball or what was that?
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
we need to bring that
Double A,
back,
okay.
right? All right. Well, yeah, we're having a good time here. Thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you.
I want to jump. It feels like getting serious. No, I want to jump into our a question about our economy. And so, being that this is Waikiki, Kakaako, and tourism, this is a major thing, right? And we've learned through COVID that we are extremely dependent on tourism. And what does that look like when tourism is here? So, let's just go over some of the facts. Over 70% of District 12's local economy is tied to tourism. So, how do we plan to diversify the economy in District 12 to make it more sustainable and resilient? And anyone can start.
Okay.
Whoever wants to.
I'll
want me-
go.
You
Yeah.
want me to?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Well,
yeah.
either or.
Okay.
All good with me.
Well, for me, I see tourism is our mainstay. You know, it is 8% of our revenues generated, and it's in Waikiki, and that's like about $6.8 billion.
Wow.
So we can't not support it.
Right.
But I also see Kakaako, and this is my dream that we could do this. And we've started some conversations. Is that we have the medical school,
Yeah.
we have the Cancer Research Center, and we have the High Tech Development Corporation, all in Kakaako, Macaulay.
Yeah.
And so why not all of them working together with the hospitals to make Hawaii not only a destination hub for visitor industry, but a destination hub for healthcare tech. And I see that as playing out that we can have, for example, you might have seen in the news that the Cancer Research Center just got the 5-year designation to be one of 72 cancer centers. And they have worked with Queen's Hospital and with Hawaii Pacific Health to come together on research, but they've never had oncology as a course curriculum in the medical school. Now, if we had that, we can grow our own research doctors. And we can also bring people from Pacific and Asia to come here to get what they call early clinical trials, so that whatever is being researched, they can have first dibs. Dabs, dibs, dibs.
The first pun. The first pun.
There you go.
Dibs for this new kinds of clinical trials.
Right.
And so we can actually recruit and have patients coming here and have a whole nother economic sector, which is healthcare, because we are the healthiest state in the nation.
I saw that.
Yep.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah.
It's the sun, man.
So
People
why
get
don't we
happy.
build on
Yeah.
that? We
I had
should
to
build
double
on
check
it.
that fact.
Yeah.
And you kind of go really into depth here when you were in the Kokua, when you're talking about it, and Kokua Council, right? Yeah, I wondered about that. So your solution to more revenue in our economy could be through the health sector. And I think that's a unique proposition. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, and it seems different. You know, you normally go to agriculture, and there's all these other import-export things. But yeah, that's interesting. And how does that, just from a pure, just I would like to know, like, how does that play out? So are you saying, we invest money in the technology, in the education, and the schooling here in Kakaako, as that is the hub where we have all these schools now, right? John A. Burns and right. And then you're saying, I know you even said like, let's cure cancer. I know you kind of talked about that, but how does that bring in specifically like money? Like, how does that just like give it a big boost?
Okay, so two things, right? So
Yeah.
you can bring
I'm
in
gonna move
patients.
the mic so you can.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, we want to hear you. I want to hear
Okay.
this. Yeah.
So two things that off the top. Well, three things, because education is one. We bring in students, and then they get trained, and they be doctors, and we grow our own that we can also export. But number two would be when you look at early clinical trials. These are developments. I mean, we can also find a cure for cancer, but these are early trials of new drugs that can help people who have cancer. So people from Pacific and Asia, instead of going to Texas and staying there for the rest of their life while they get treated, and the cost of that, they can come right here, stay at home, and even neighbor islands can just come right here and stay at home, close to family, and get treated, so we can generate income from patients coming here. And the third is big pharma. So drug companies are looking for these early trials. So they're testing all their different trials. But because Hawaii has the diversity of Native Hawaiians and Asians
Yeah.
that the mainland doesn't have. It's all like haoles, right?
Right.
So they can come here and test these drugs and sell these drugs, so we can make money off of the drug companies because they're doing the early clinical trials here in Hawaii. So there's 3 ways that we can generate income from the cancer center, not to mention the medical school that can bring in students to learn about not only oncology, but how do you treat different Native Hawaiian and Pacific Asian populations in really innovative healthcare.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been really supported in a big way, but to me, it is a major area that it's overlooked. It's kind of, not really on the radar screen, but I think it should be because, hey, we're the healthiest state of the nation. How do we do that, right?
It kind of feels like it goes hand in hand with Hawaii,
Yeah.
right? Like the Aloha State.
Yeah.
Why not be the state that's promoting health and trying to help
Yeah.
others? I
Yeah,
think
for
that's
sure.
very, very
And
interesting.
one more thing I can add
yeah.
is that bringing in the visitors are now coming for healthcare and not necessarily just to have a good time. We
Right.
make Hawaii a different place. It's not just to have fun, but
Right.
it's really to be cured. It's really to develop new innovative technologies to healthcare. And in fact, I was talking to one of the hoteliers, and he said, yeah, we can put hotels out so that people from the neighbor islands can come here, stay close to their loved ones in our hotels, and we can work out some kind of arrangement where they can stay here and get treated and stay close to family until they go home.
Yeah.
But they don't have to go to Texas.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Could I add on to
Yeah,
that?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, the medical industry is definitely a major factor we should look into. I mean, even, we have a gigantic doctor and nurse shortage, right? So growing them here is a major benefit to us.
Yeah.
And even, when it comes to drug trials and things like that, it's good that we have a massive Asian population because generally a lot of trials are done on, like she said, haoles, right? And the way they process medication is significantly different than Asian people and minorities, right? Every single ethnicity has different reactions to different drugs, right? One drug doesn't work on the other, right? And that's one big thing we should look into. For me, I really believe in the agriculture. I
Yeah.
think that's the future. Asian countries love Arcona coffee, right?
Right.
Why don't we expand on that, right? We're always running out. There's not enough farmers, and building that industries could be a massive moneymaker. But it's really hard for a farmer to want to get into that because they make no money from it,
Right.
right? And it's hard to, we need to try to incentivize them to become farmers. My
Yeah.
dad's a farmer right now, right? Thankfully, he doesn't have to, he's fully sustainable, so he doesn't have to worry about that money
Wow.
portion, right? He's a chicken farmer, so
Wow.
he has a lot of chickens. But I believe the agriculture sector is a big one, and slowly we're becoming the green industry. What is it called? Energy and sustainability.
Yeah.
We're slowly building upon that, right? We have the goal of 100% renewable energy. I think 2045, if that's the correct. Yeah. So we're kind of building on every single industry slowly, right? You can't just
Yeah.
build it in one day, but we're a lot of different smart people are working in different industries trying to build it. COVID showed us that we cannot 100% rely on tourism. It will always be the heart of Hawaii. So I don't want to get rid of it or shoo away tourists or anything like that. But we do need to look into diversifying our economy, and that's a
Yeah.
big push.
It's interesting because, right, they say Hawaii is broken down to military, right? And then we've got tourism, and then we've got a sliver of agriculture. I want to ask this question maybe to both of you is there used to be a time where we shot a lot of movies here, a lot of
Yes,
television, and that's kind of my world. It just feels like it's almost non-existent. It's kind of happening, but a lot of people want to go to Canada, Georgia. They're now going to Europe. Taxes are way more beneficial there for them. And I always say Hawaii's the best place, right? If you want lava, we got it. You want snow, we got that. You want city, we got it. We've got forest, we've got water, we've got everything. So Hawaii to me is like the perfect place to shoot anything you want to shoot. What are your thoughts around that? And specifically Waikiki, I mean, Hawaii Five-0, Magnum PEI, some of these are just iconic Waikiki. What do we have to do, or are you doing anything to encourage this?
Uh, well, yes, creative industries is another pillar of economic development for our state. We have put in incentives for production companies to develop, and also workforce development, so that we can get more people above the line as well as below the line. And so we're really trying to grow that. And West Oahu College University has that program that
Right.
really serves all of the campuses for creative media. I think one of the problems, and we saw that during the writers' strike, SAG-AFTRA
Right.
strike, was that all these big companies are there because they're the ones with the big money. And so if they say we're not going to do NCIS anymore, NCIS goes up. Right? And so part of it is, how do we grow our own production companies? I think that's the challenge. My son-in-law just told me he's a writer, and he's really trying to look at how production can be done in Hawaii, because he does a lot of work, or did a lot of work in LA and New York. Is how do you get the production companies? They're small local companies. How do we support them? Are the tax incentive enough, or what can we do to at least start this conversation? I know that we have a
Right.
creative industries program in the state. It's
Right.
under the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. And that has been going on, but I don't know whether and what it's doing to really foster and grow these local production companies. But I think we need no production companies that are local, that can thrive, because there's a lot of good stories,
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of good actors around. But it's how do you get them together to actually make the film?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any thoughts on that?
For me, I'm not too knowledgeable on that industry. I know the past 2 sessions there were bills to help that industry, but I'm not too knowledgeable on that to speak on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased because I love Hawaii, but if you put any skill set, creativity, anything that Hawaii touches, whether it's music with Bruno Mars, sports with, look at our little leagues, we keep on winning, right? You look at like just over and over, and you've got actors and actresses, and you've got screenwriters. We've got friends that are in all these film festivals, and we're uniquely positioned, like you said, for storytelling, because we're in the middle of the Pacific, and we've got all of these storytellers from Asia and from the Pacific, and it just seems like, and this is just my opinion, I feel like we could be just blowing up, right? A really big one is the ocean scene. So like when they did Pirates of the Caribbean, and I know that there was a time where we were talking about like water studios and stuff, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it as as somebody who's in the industry, that I just think we're scratching the surface, and I don't know what we need to do, but I think with your district and what you're doing and how we're going about it, I think I likened it to New York. You could be walking around New York, and there's that show and that show, and it's like, wow, we're shooting 5 shows in the same block, and just had this vibe. And I think Hawaii could totally do that, right?
For sure.
All right. Well, I want to play one more game, and then get you on your way. I know you're really busy. We got like 2.5 weeks out before we have this election. But before I do, I just want to give you a second. If there's anything you want to say, anything on your heart, anything you want to talk to our listenership, I just want to give you that time. If you don't want to, that's fine. So I'll start with you, Shotaro.
Well, just I guess like a closing statement, right?
Sure.
This election has shown that not a lot of people are voting. The young generation, they're not voting, and I'm hoping with this race, especially our race, that the younger generation can see that it's not just boring politics, right? I'm 25. I love politics, and I really want to push other young adults to also vote. You can make a difference, right? Just to make a big difference within that young generation. And secondly, there has been a lot of hate going on in not just Hawaii, but the U.S. as a whole, right, with this presidential race, which I'm not going to touch on. But I've seen a lot of divide between both parties, the Democratic and Republican Party. And I just want to tell people that, don't vote based off of party allegiances, but on the person. You know, just look into them, eh, vote with your heart, vote on them, based on their character and how you believe they'll serve the community. Um, so, if someone's a Republican or Democrat, don't hate on them just because of the letter next to their name. Just look at the content of their heart and to, just love one another, right? We used to be called, or we're called the paradise state, right? Everyone comes here, it's paradise, it's all aloha. But we're slowly losing that with all the hate going on and, the media, portraying each party as, evil or things like that. Hawaii has a lot of good people. So,
Yeah.
let's try to keep a little more optimism in this state and just, care for each other.
That's good. Sharon, on your end.
Yeah, I too want to encourage everybody to vote because that is important. It really is a powerful statement for you to make is to vote and vote for who you think can help you make this community better. I also want to encourage people to think about how you can make a difference because it really is important for us all. I mean, I didn't really plan to run for office. I ran for office because of all the condos going around me, and I was an advocate. But when you become an elected official, you represent everybody. So you listen to all of the pros and cons, and you try to make the best decision possible. So every day when I'm hearing from people, I say, "What can you do to help me help you?" And that really is all that government is. Legislators are just one part of it. Then you have the administration. So when I pass a bill, I make sure that the administration follows through on the bill. So in homeless, I go to the Department of Human Services, Department of Health. What are you doing to implement what we pass? Because it's empty if you implement laws. So we need people like you to get involved, to say, these are the problems you got to be working on, and this is not working. And this is how you should really look at how you make it better. Because in the end, I always listen to people. I like your comments. And I feel that that's the only way that we know that young people have a voice is that you have to give us your voice. And sometimes we don't hear that other than we don't like what you're doing. Well, I want to know how do we do it better then? And that's what I would encourage you to do. And your vote does matter because it's the first step. And I may not be the best person that you want to have before you. To look at my record, go to SharonMoriwaki.com, see if that's what you like. If you don't like it, then vote for show. But if you like what I'm doing, because I am just your voice in the Senate, one of 25, and I try day after day to do what you ask. And sometimes I solve your problem, sometimes I don't. But I keep working at it, and that's what I hope that I've earned your vote because that's all I do is just try my best. So I really encourage you, though, to vote on November 5th.
Awesome.
Aloha,
That's
mahalo.
awesome. Beautiful.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're gonna end with this. We put in this is what we do here. We put in everyone's background. We put in all your degrees and all of your background. We put in all that we spoke of today, and we throw it into Chat GPT. We asked Chat GPT to ask you one specific question that would bring the most insight to our listeners. So if you don't like the question, go ahead and blame Chat GPT. But this is how we can use AI in the future, right? Okay. Okay, so this is for you, Sharon. If District 12 could introduce one groundbreaking technology initiative, what would it be? Would you prioritize smart transportation systems, green energy initiatives, or something else?
Well, you heard about my healthcare dream. I would say that it would be building healthcare. But when you talk about green, my background has been in energy and energy policy. But for Waikiki and Kakaako, it is the shoreline. We are a low-lying coastal community. So it really is important that we look at sea level rise and what can we do to protect our shoreline. So I'm working on some ideas in terms of beach erosion. So I would like to clear Waikiki, Kakaako, and really make it a nice beach for future generations, and not have high-rise buildings on the coastline, but really look, we talk about managed retreat. I really want to see us look at some of the technologies. For example, the UH is working with the Federal Navy, the DARPA, and they're looking at growing coral outside so that you don't have all this wave action coming in and eroding the shoreline. So those are technologies that are new. They're called nature-inspired solutions, but we really need to look at these technologies that may be occurring in other places like us, Singapore, that's working on shoreline erosion, because that's all we have. Is Waikiki may not even have a beach if we don't
Right.
protect our shore.
Right. That'd be weird to say Waikiki, no beach, right?
Yeah. So the technology being developed now is looking at how do we have nature-inspired solutions, not hardened solutions and like seawalls, but make it so that we can actually protect our shorelines, but also have it sustained so that in the future you don't have to keep on putting up concrete and concrete and concrete. There'll be something that's more like coral that thrive and stay there. Sure.
Yeah. Pretty good question, right? Oh, I don't know. I
Okay,
guess
thank
I
you,
got to know.
GPT.
Yeah. All right. Shotaro, this is for you.
Awesome.
Reimagining traditions of modern times. If you could take one local tradition from District 12, reimagine it with a modern twist, what would it be, and how would you make it relevant for today's youth? I'm going to say it one more time. Reimagining traditions of modern times. If you could take one local tradition from District 12 and reimagine it with a modern twist, what would it be, and how would you make it relevant for today's youth?
Wow, GPT gave me a hard one, huh? Culture. Man, being born and raised in Waikiki, it's I feel like it's sometimes a different state compared to the rest of Hawaii, so the culture is significantly different there. The remodernizing what I'm about to say isn't really possible, but the culture of phones and iPads and things like that, we need to kind of get rid of that, and that's kind of my little answer to that. In terms of culture, that's a pretty difficult question. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I kind of look at like Spam Jam. Waikiki is
Jam.
always, right? You got some cool
Yeah.
stuff out there that,
Yeah,
we
do have like block parties and things like that. A lot of I'm on the Waikiki neighborhood board, so we have a lot of people who do not like the amount of festivals and things like that happen, right? But I guess remodernizing that is to lessen the amount of festivals that we have by a little bit, and to kind of bring more local stores and shops into Waikiki, and kind of pushing more local instead of out of state companies and corporations, things like that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to thank you both so much for being here. Thank you for
you.
being
Thank you.
friendly with the smile. Listen, again, I'm Josh here with Sit Down Hawaii podcast. Do me a favor, share this, drop a comment, and more than that, please spend some time, really look at everyone and vote, because it is important and it is your voice. Until the next time, have a good day. Take care. Aloha. Man, shout out to Sharon and to Shotaro. Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, she's infectious. Like, she's just got this confidence about her that she knows what she's doing, and I actually think she has fun. I think she has fun when she works. And Waikiki is pretty crazy. I don't know if it's gotten any better. But I think she cares. And she's got this way about her that, when she says she listens to people, I think she does. Like, she said she passed that bill and she had somebody help her write it that was in the neighborhood, and I believe her. And she's got this way about her that she talks about policy, but she also sees like people when she talks about policy. It's not just something that I put together that I want my name on. When she says she didn't want to run and she just felt like people were asking her because she was already, contending for them. I believe everything she says is very genuine. Shotaro, on the other hand, young, and you can see that he runs because he's been through a lot. And I give him a ton of credit because he spent the time thinking about this and he actually did it. And the interesting thing about him is he is active, right? He's on the neighborhood board, and the more I did research on him, I see where he's at and what he's trying to do. He's a product of Waikiki, and he knows that it could be better. And so him stepping up, I think, was an amazing thing. But, overall, I do think that the way that Sharon explains things and how she kind of laid things out, it was very in depth, and you can tell she's been doing it for a while. Nonetheless, both of these candidates have been the most respectful by far. At one point, I just was thinking, man, both of them, they're agreeing on a lot of things, and I think it goes to show that both Sharon and Shotaro both come from a heart of wanting to help, and I appreciate that. And so, if you're part of this District 12, I think you got some good candidates. I think you got some good options. Again, we're not a political podcast, but I do think that either one, at least that they're good human beings, because I really do believe that. Other than that, hey, have a good day. Take care. Goodbye.